Ray Ratto, the Bay Area sports czar, one of the great sports writers in America, and he joins us now. The most recent article he wrote for Deadspin, the weirder the finals get, the better. How much more weird can it get, Ray?
Well, I think maybe if they figured out a way to get LeBron James out of retirement. The perfect thing about this series is that nobody has any idea who's got the upper hand yet. And that's through 3 games. I don't remember the last time a series played out like that. Because, I mean, you talked about the Warriors having 2 injured players. They've got 3. Because Kevon Looney was important to them.
Well, I'm talking about stars.
Oh, so okay, stars I get. But in terms of them functioning, Looney is as important as anybody who isn't a megastar, because you saw how easy it was last night for Toronto to deal with DeMarcus Cousins. They basically lengthed him off the floor. So in that way, you know, Looney shouldn't be ignored because the Warriors aren't very deep. So every competent player who can hold their own in this series is important. I mean, you saw Curry be as Curry can be, but you also saw Draymond Green fail to be 2 players at once, and everybody else was either at their norm or below it. I mean, that game truly was never in doubt, and that, you know, you could say that part of that is Thompson, but nobody else elevated their game beyond sort of their normal levels. The right thing happened, and at the right margin, too.
What do you make of the KLAY strategy? I didn't think he was going to play last night because if you aggravate that, then you may lose him the entire series. And I think that Steve Kerr was basically saying, I'll take a bullet and maybe we lose last night. I just got to have him around because I think this series may go 7 games.
Well, I think part of it was strategic, but part of it was that the Warriors are a relatively conservative bunch when it comes to injuries. They gave Chelsea Lane a lot of leeway when she was there, and they've given the same amount of leeway to Rick Celebrini, who's the head of their medical team now. And when I saw the story that Woj put out, that the Warriors were reluctant to play Thompson, but Thompson was going to keep lobbying, I thought, well, that's a futile attempt by Thompson. He doesn't win that. Yeah. The Warriors always give their medical people, I think, more leeway to make decisions like that than most teams do. So when I heard that, you know, their medicals were reluctant to let him play, I said, well, then he's not playing.
Well, it's a little different, though, going into Friday, though. I get the feeling Thompson's playing, and I guess the biggest question mark, though, Ray, is Kevin Durant anywhere near game ready? And if he is, I'm assuming a minutes count will probably be put in place for Durant.
I don't know if they'll put a minutes count on either one of them. I think they'll just go by feel, which is normally the way they do this. I think Durant has wanted to play for about the last week. But again, he knows that he's up against a medical people who are very conservative about when they green light people. Thompson, I don't know if he'll play Friday because I don't know how much healing you can do with a hamstring over 2 days. I think that's why all the people who are assuming they'll both be back for Game 4 are, A, jumping the gun based on their long years of knowing nothing about medicine, and 2, assuming that all of a sudden the philosophy that the Warriors have always had about injuries is all of a sudden going to change just because they need Game 4.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I think, I think Steve Kerr might be, chewing the furniture a bit about it, but ultimately he's always deferred to the medical people, and if they don't like what they see today, I could easily see them saying they're not playing tomorrow either.
McLovin, give Ray the poll question.
If you had to bet a week's pay, who do you have in this series now, the Raptors or Warriors?
Well, I'm clinically underemployed, so I've got nothing to lose here.
You don't have a paycheck to lose. If you had a paycheck to lose, Ray.
Okay. I'd say Golden State because I think, if Durant's playing, it's because he's close to 100%, and the same for Thompson. And that just changes everything Toronto can do. I mean, last night they had so much freedom of action that they could actually shorten their bench and be better. Yeah. I mean, they basically, they dominated Golden State with 7 guys, and they all played really well. I think that changes if Durant is, let's say, 90%. And if Thompson plays, we'll say he's 90% too. I think all of a sudden, now that's 2 guys they have to guard differently than they did in Game 3. And I think the Warriors have the edge. Now, if they lose Friday night, then I think the series is over.
Okay. I do like what you brought up, and people just assume that the Warriors just lost, well, then Durant and Thompson have to play. That doesn't make them healthier. Like, all of a sudden, you don't go, hey, Kevin's feeling better because we lost this last game. And I think that they have been very conservative. Also, it's a little tricky with Kevin Durant and free agency, I'm guessing, how they show their love and care for him. Or am I overstating that in a situation like this, Ray?
I think you're overstating it because I think they would be as solicitous if they had him under contract for more years. If he had his way, he'd have played last night. He'd have hopped on one leg, but he'd have done it. And I think the same is true of Thompson. But the days of, shoot him up and trot him out there, and if they fall down and die, then they fall down and die, those days are pretty much over. Mm. And it's also, they're muscles. They're not like, this is not bone, these are not bone issues. These are not, tendon issues. You can't just shoot up a muscle, because if they go out with a half-numbed leg and they do any more damage, they don't know that they're doing the damage, and then you may have shredded a guy's career. So I think the Warriors, quite frankly, I don't know that Steve Kerr would want that on his conscience, above and beyond everything else. And the medicals, like I said, they wouldn't want that either, because forevermore, even if you just wanted to be cynical about it, forevermore they'd be known as the people who ruined Kevin Durant and KLAY Thompson. I think they're being careful because they're trained to be careful, and they gain nothing by not being careful. If it was a different kind of injury, maybe they'd treat it differently. But I think given what these are, I think they're basically approaching this as though they have season ahead of them, and if it means they don't get a parade, then they don't get a parade.
I was surprised that there was no boxing one last night on Curry. That he put up 47, but I kept wondering, are they going to use the boxing one? Why don't you think Toronto did it?
Because I think Nick Nurse knew that 5 minutes of practice in a Warrior facility was going to allow Steve Kerr to show them how to beat the boxing one. The boxing one was great only because it's a surprise. And there was no reason to do a triangle in 2, because which would be the 2? No, I think he popped that out as a one-time thing, just on the spur of the moment. But he knew that it's not hard to beat, and frankly, he didn't have to do anything, quote, janky with his defense, based on the fact that the Warriors had no more offense to provide. I mean, I talked about Cousins being inert, but Green was, Green did what he could, but he wasn't by any means an offensive threat. And, Iguodala is Iguodala. Livingston, hasn't played 20 minutes except one time all year. Cook and Bogut, just all those guys, they are who they are. And there just isn't any compelling reason why people should have expected them all to rise up and exceed their normal limits all in unison against a really, really good defensive team.
Is it better for the media if the Warriors win or lose this finals?
Yeah, the media can go to hell. I don't know what it is, because you know what? That everybody's gearing up for free agency anyway.
Yes. Yeah, I know.
I mean, this is actually the third preseason of the NBA. There's the preseason, there's the regular season, which is a preseason of its own, and now there is this, which is closer to an actual season, but not so much, because what we really are interested in more than anything else is the sound and smell of burning money. It's the thing we like more than anything else, and it only happens in basketball because basketball is the only sport in which players have such an overwhelming sense of power about their own futures. It doesn't happen in football or baseball or hockey or anything else. It's in basketball where players have an inordinate amount of power to determine their futures, and that's what we love. I mean, I'm convinced of it now. We've been talking about where Kevin Durant is going to go for a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a sign that we've decided to redefine Christmas.
The moment where you had Lowry go into the stands with that fan, is this an NBA issue or is this a Golden State Warriors issue with that fan?
It's a fan issue because the guy's a moron. And every place has morons. I could easily have seen this being the same thing if Curry had gone into the stands in Toronto. If he goes into the stands with the wrong guy's going to decide, hey, here's my chance to be famous for 8 seconds before the cops drag me off. So I don't think it's an issue for anything except that, Lowry goes into the stands, and if you sit that close, I mean, that's sort of a risk you run. And if you want to do something else about it, that's about you. Because I think for the most part, Golden State fans and Toronto fans are the same fans. They came to see the game, and getting into a fight with Kyle Lowry is really not anybody getting what their money's worth is. I think it's a complete one-off, and the time has come and gone.
Ray, good luck. Keep sending out those resumes, and hopefully you get a job next time I talk to you. That's Ray Ratto, the longtime Bay Area sports writer, columnist, and his most recent column on Deadspin, the weirder the finals get, the better.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune into Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV. Stream for free on BR Live or download the Dan Patrick Show app.